Hey, horror fans, Anchor Pete here, and I'm with my wife, Sherry T. I'm from, of course, the Lastercast channel, and if you guys don't recognize her, she is from my channel, the Anchor Pete channel. We're really happy to be here live with you right now. We're going to be talking about Amazon's show, Them. Sherry, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. We just finished episode 2, and it was stressful.
Yeah. Guys, here's the deal, right? Sherry and I don't normally binge watch shows. We have 2 little kids. We don't have a lot of time in our house to just sit down and watch a TV show for like 10 episodes straight.
Especially a horror one that our kids can't see.
Yeah. So, and we actually don't really enjoy binge watching shows. Like a show like this, I kind of feel like you need to watch and like kind of let it sink in. Because I understand if you want to binge watch like a horror marathon, you want to watch all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you want to watch all the Saw movies or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that has a much deeper context to it. And I mean, it's not even a context, it's like right in your face. The subject matter is so intense that I don't think it really deserves just watching like straight through.
Yeah, I don't think it would do it justice to watch 10 hours straight of this show.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't think I could handle it because it's very intense. It's stressful, it's upsetting, and I need a break.
Yeah. You know, Sherry, I actually kind of read some spoilers for deeper into the series. And
you know how I feel about spoilers.
I know, I couldn't help it. I just saw someone tweeted it, and I was like, oh my God, that's going to happen? I don't even want to see that. So, sorry.
I'm cool.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, we are here, and we are going to talk about just episodes 1 and 2 of Them, okay? So, Sherry, you know me, I like to kind of talk about...
And we will have spoilers, which is ironic since I just said I don't like them. But I'm warning you. I'm warning you up front.
Yeah, just go watch episodes 1 and 2 and then come back to us. So, Sherry, I was going to tell you right away that the creators behind the show, we have Lena Waithe and Little Marvin. Little Marvin wrote the first 2 episodes that we just watched. And there was another guy that wrote the second episode as well. But what I wanted to talk about right off the bat was that the episode was directed by Nelson Cragg. Now, you might not recognize that director.
Episode 1 or 2?
He directed both of them.
Okay.
And the thing is, the reason why I bring him up right away is because he is normally a cinematographer, and he has done the cinematography for shows that we love, like Breaking Bad, Homeland. He did that crime show with Versace. He did that too.
Okay.
So, I mean, to me, just right off the bat, the show is just like beautiful to look at.
Yes, I can. When you said he's a cinematographer, I see that totally because it looks great.
Yeah, it's a great looking show, and the thing is that it's such a contrast to how disturbing the show is. They live in this like idyllic, beautiful setting, but yet it's just like a constant horrible feeling throughout this show, right? And so the thing is, you know, we're 2 white people talking about this, but like the main horror of this show is this horrible experience that the family goes through being African Americans moving into this town.
Compton,
yes. So, you know, they moved from North Carolina. And the reason why I think that this show is kind of important is because I'm sure that this kind of stuff has happened to people, African American people, you know? And just like, it's almost like too much to take. It's like so ridiculous how upsetting it is. Like, I think that you were crying by the end of this second episode, right?
No, I didn't cry, but I'm upset, kind of. You know, that's why I'm saying I couldn't do 10 hours straight of the show. In fact, this is going to be a hard show for me to get through because we've watched a lot of this topic recently.
Yeah.
We revisited Get Out.
Yes, we did.
We watched some of Lovecraft Country. You watched all of it, but I only watched some of it.
Yeah.
For the same reasons. It's hard to take because I think it's really disturbing, of course.
Well, you know what? They're all very similar, right? Because Lovecraft Country, Get Out, and this, they all have a supernatural element to it. But first and foremost, right in your face is the racicism, right?
Oh, I just remembered the other thing we watched is Fargo, the last season of Fargo with Chris Rock.
Oh, yes.
You know, there's a lot of racial issues.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily horror, but like, yeah. That issue is absolutely there in that season.
Well, the one girl who goes to school, you know, she has to deal with like the way that she's treated at school. It's reminding me of The Daughter and Them.
Yeah.
That whole scene in the high school, didn't that remind you of her, what she has to go through in Fargo?
I was actually going to just say, that
Ethelrita. That's her name, Ethelrita.
And you know what? I said it's not horror, but you know what? In that Fargo season, there is sort of like a supernatural element because she lives in a funeral home, and there are some kind of like ghost-like scenes too.
That's right.
They were kind of similar to some of the things in this show.
That's right. Their family like has a ghost.
Yeah. So this show, just talking about it in general, it's going to be a different kind of discussion because this isn't the kind of show would be like, oh, see how creepy that was that this happened, or oh man, that it's not that. Like 95% of the show is about racism, 5% is like some kind of supernatural element, and we've seen barely anything of it.
Yeah, and from what I've seen of the supernatural element so far, it's metaphorical.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers. It's only episode 1 and 2, but so far that's how it's looking to me.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we've seen in episode 1, and we'll just talk about it. So right away, what did you think of that opening of episode 1 when they're still in North Carolina?
It's creepy.
It was very creepy.
Very creepy. Maybe one of the creepiest scenes of the first 2 episodes. That woman scared me.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be scared if someone came to your door and started acting that way and saying, "Give me your baby"?
Yeah. That's
every mom's worst nightmare.
That's Dale Dickey, and maybe you might have recognized her. She's from like Winter's Bone, and she's in a ton of movies where she kind of plays a sort of kind of trashed out kind of woman. And so when you see her, just automatically she seems kind of disturbed, right?
I didn't recognize her. And
Yeah.
I don't care to see her.
Yeah.
Again, or showing up at my door or anything like that.
Yeah, she's singing that song, and it kind of sounds nice to begin with, and then it's like, oh, no, it's a racist song. And like you said, she goes to ask for that really cute child, too.
Adorable baby, yeah.
That's one thing I kind of wanted to bring up before I forget. All the African-American characters in this show are like just beautiful to look at. I think the dad is very handsome. The mom is, I just love looking at that mom.
Yeah.
The baby was such a beautiful little baby boy.
Adorable little girl.
Yeah. So like, that's the thing. That family is so likable, right? They're so like, you root for them and you care for them. And so when you see this kind of stuff that they have to go through, you're like, oh, come on, why do they have to deal with this? But of course, it's because...
That's why I'm having such a hard time. Okay, so we talked about, we touched on Fargo, Get Out, Lovecraft Country. Those don't really involve children. Like, it is really hard for me to watch kids go through some of the things.
Yeah. Especially in that second episode, that was really hard. Probably the worst scene to watch was with the daughter.
I have a whole opinion about, if I had my way with the characters, we couldn't even have this series because I know someone had to be a trailblazer. I know there were people who were trailblazers who had to be the first African Americans to move into neighborhoods like this and deal with this shit.
Yeah.
It's total shit.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have done it. And I don't think I could have done it to my family. So I'm actually sort of frustrated with the father for moving his family to this neighborhood, and they all have to go through this.
Yeah.
Well, and apparently, the opening tells you they're only going to be there 10 days.
Yeah. The opening.
And that's how bad it is.
Yeah, that opening is kind of interesting because the way it's set up, it's almost like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or I'm trying to think of other horror examples.
What it reminded me of
Blair Witch. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, why Blair Witch?
Because I'm pretty sure Blair Witch and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they start off with like a little blurb about this happened to these people.
Making it seem historical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say it reminds me of Amityville Horror, where the family actually moved out after I think it was more like 43 days or something. I read the book, and it's like in a diary form. Amityville Horror, really good book, by the way.
Yeah.
Side note: if you ever like to read horror, it's a really good book. But anyway, this reminds me of that with that like historical kind of note at the beginning, letting you know. And I actually really love how they have set this show up for suspense, because letting us know that in advance, that's the very first thing.
Yeah.
We're already anticipating something horrible, and we don't know what it's going to be. And I don't know. There's really good suspense in the show. So far, let me just say the first 2 episodes have been really good.
Yes.
Very disturbing, very upsetting. Like I said, I don't love the feelings I'm getting, but it's because it's working, So I haven't read a spoiler, but I read a headline which said that the show kind of like dips, it drops in quality. But so far these first 2 episodes have been stellar.
Well, it kind of reminds me of our discussions we've had of Lovecraft Country, right? Because like we've kind of talked about how the racist aspect of the show is so compelling, that part is so thrilling and so scary, and that the supernatural aspects of Lovecraft Country are just like, it almost like you get less interested when it's the supernatural aspect, right?
Yeah, it pales in comparison to the horror of real life racism.
Yeah. So I think that like with this show, maybe they get more into the supernatural aspect, going on.
I guess so.
So let's kind of just go through it though. So with episode 1, we have this family moving to Compton from North Carolina. Now that first scene where they lived in North Carolina, it seemed like way more old fashioned than the 1950s.
I think it's just rural. It's
right.
like out in the country, so it's hard to place it as much.
Yeah.
You don't have like all the buildings around to like let you know what time period it is.
Right. And so at first I was like, oh, is she just having a dream, or is this some kind of like delusion that she's having? I didn't make the connection that was in the past because it was a little boy, and I know that they have 2 girls in the show, so I couldn't make that connection. But by episode 2, you know that that's their past, right?
Right.
So they move into this town, and the realtor seems real desperate to get rid of this house, to get this house off the market, and that's where the title of this series comes up. This show is going to be like an anthology, like American Horror Story, and every season is going to have its own title. This one's called Covenant. And Sherry, do you want to just explain why it's called Covenant?
Yeah. So they tell you right away in the first episode that there was a covenant written into the contract for buying the house that said no one with Negro blood could buy the house. And she said the realtor reassured the wife who was concerned when she saw this covenant. The realtor reassured her that this is now illegal. This isn't allowed anymore. It's like that's a rule. It's kind of like when they desegregated schools. It was okay last year, but it's not okay anymore.
Right.
However, of course, these problems persist.
Yeah. And so
anyway, that was called the covenant.
Yeah. And that causes tension between the husband and the wife. We should tell you what their names are too. There's Lucky is the wife, and the husband's name is
Henry.
Oh man,
Henry Emery.
That sounds right. Yeah, dude, I didn't write down his name. But yeah. All right. So Henry and Lucky, right? And he calls her Luck. And that automatically kind of causes like a little bit of a rift, which we see grow throughout the series so far. And so when they move in, here's the thing. With the white people living in the neighborhood, the way the trailer first made it seem, and Sherry, I can actually kind of show the trailer while we're doing this too. It's not going to interrupt us or anything like that. But people like to have... I'm going to turn the volume off. But as they... in the trailer, the white people, you just see them always looking in, right? Always staring at them. And I didn't know that we were going to get like a firsthand account of how the white characters felt. I just thought that they were going to be like this force that was going to surround the family. And
they are a force surrounding the family, but yes, we are getting characters here, which is good.
Yeah. And the main one that we're seeing is Betty Wendell, who's played by Alison Pill. For you Star Trek fans, you'll know that she was just on Star Trek Picard. And, she's from like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or whatever. But Alison Pill, what do you think of her as Betty?
She's creepy and shitty, and she's doing a good job as a villain.
Yeah.
Like, she's awful.
Yeah. There's those white people. I'm going to pause on them for a second. Go back to us. And Lena waits right there.
And she's kind of like the ringleader. She's encouraging all of the neighbors to be more upset than maybe they are about African-American family moving in.
Yeah.
Because she's upset. I mean, I assume she's brimming with hate. She reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you remember The Help.
I knew you were going to say, I was about to say that.
Isn't she so much like Bryce Dallas Howard's character?
Yes.
She reminds me a lot of her. And that's an inspiration, great, because that's a really good role in character. She's a really good villain because they're a well-rounded villain. They're not like, so far, we haven't seen this with Alison Pill's character, but in The Help, she's a well-rounded villain because she's actually a good mom and a good wife, but she hates Black people.
Yeah.
And that kind of seems to be where this is going with this woman.
Yeah.
She's scary.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's the way she is, right? It's like everyone's kind of upset about Black people moving into their neighborhood, but she's like super upset, and she's concerned that people aren't upset enough. And so it's
right,
just
and
like,
she wants to do something about it. Whereas they might be like, "I'm upset, but I'm going to get on with my day and get on with my life." And,
right.
But she wants to she's stirring the pot. She's like bothering her husband. She's bothering her best friend. And when her best friend doesn't feel the way she does, and in fact, her best friend confesses in the second episode that she is pregnant and they're moving, so they don't have to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
She is so pissed off. That's how I read it. Pissed off, right?
Oh yeah. Rage.
Yeah, she had rage, which she like when she feels rage, this character just gets a frozen, creepy smile on her face and maybe tears in her eyes.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's awful. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
And she's wearing this really neon lipstick. I just want to say, like, that's a really good touch because it's unnatural looking.
Yeah. It makes it stand out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It makes her smile like that much more clownish, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's creepy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And just there's a sequence in it. There's a couple of sequences where they are just like sitting outside of their house, blaring this sort of racist music to upset the family. And that was very, very similar to this Lovecraft Country episode where Letty, I say her name right this time, as opposed to my other review I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Letty moves her family and friends to this neighborhood, this white neighborhood in Lovecraft Country, and the white people there make the car horns honk for hours and hours and hours. In this, they're just blaring this racist music, but it's very similar. That episode reminded me of this show.
Yeah.
And so it's just real upsetting. It's like they have to deal with this on a daily basis in their house, you know?
Right, and they've done nothing except move into a house.
They've done nothing but literally just be black, right? And that's the whole thing about these protagonists is that there hasn't been a scene or anything where you're like, oh, I don't like this part of their personality or anything. They're just like good people that like the daughter is the smart daughter. They have this little cute daughter. Ruby is the smart older daughter that's in high school. And they have this little cute daughter who's like the same age as our girl, and she is
Gracie Jean.
Gracie Jean, right? And so like everyone is just this lovable character in that family, and they just have to put up with this shit. You know, so let's talk about other stuff that they put up with in episode 1.
Yeah.
So in episode 1, they have their dog, whose name is Sergeant. And at the very end, Sergeant is dead in their house. And we don't know why.
Yeah, it's not clear why. However, they did show the white male neighbors discussing what to do to try to drive this family out of the neighborhood. And they did settle on killing the dog.
Killing the dog, right. And by episode 2, you're not really sure if they did it or not, because there is a potential supernatural force in the show, right? It's so far it's Miss Vera, who is a character that's in the book, that's in Gracie Jean's book, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that book is.
It looked like almost like a Dick and Jane type book, or like maybe a book on like manners.
That's
or
what I was
something.
thinking, like a Miss Manners or something. Yeah, it's not clear. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of Miss Vera.
Yeah. Did that situation with Miss Vera remind you of the Babadook at all, or no?
Because of the long, spindly, shadowy thing?
Of course, but also just the fact that like it's a character in the book sort of bothering the child.
Okay. Actually, I didn't think of that. I did think of the Babadook because of the form of the creature.
Yeah.
You don't get a good look at this creature, which I also like think that's a wise choice on the showrunner's part, because my imagination is doing a lot worse things than anything they could really show me. But like getting this unnaturally long, thin creature coming towards, you know, this adorable little girl.
Yeah.
It was very scary. Did you think it was scary?
Absolutely. I saw her in my dreams last night when I was laying in our bed. I kind of saw something in the corner of the bedroom that looked like Miss Vera. So that was a fun time.
Yeah, I didn't have that. Thank God.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. I've watched a ton of horror movies for the Laster Cast this year, and that scene where Miss Vera is like in the shadows, that's probably one of the scariest things I've seen this year.
And is she like sitting at a table like jingling the dog collar?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
So I'm not sure how they're. Again, is this metaphor, or are they saying
we don't know yet?
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Yeah. So the end of the episode 1, ends with the mom. I mean, she's like loading up the what do you call it?
The gun.
Right, the gun, but there's like the thing in the gun. Like, wow, okay, whatever.
The clip?
Yeah, the clip. Good job. She's loading up the clip, and she seems pretty frantic. When they find the dog dead, she goes out into the front yard and just starts pointing the gun at different houses and says, "Don't come near my house." And she's cursing and screaming.
She has a bit of a meltdown.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know,
Rightfully
it's upsetting.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not the way to handle it.
Yeah.
And her husband knows this, and he drags her back inside.
Mm-hmm. And then that's the end of episode 1. It just flashes them, and then we go to the next episode.
I want to say real quick about the first episode. The opening credits were fantastic. Do you remember the opening credits?
Yeah, how come they didn't show them in the second episode?
I don't know. It felt like a movie, sort of, like the opening of the movie. And then I don't know if they're going to show it for the third, but I really liked those opening credits.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock. That's what it reminds me
of.
Which is a big compliment. And that's their inspiration. You couldn't ask for a better inspiration for suspense.
Yeah, those opening credits are great because they had like a map of the city, right? And then there were certain
neighborhood
that would become red, right? And then there were like little dots put on there.
There are little pins on the map, like to pinpoint certain things. I assumed where the Black people lived. Just kind of how I took it. But I need to see that beginning again. I only saw it the one time.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like further into the series there might be more significance about it too.
Yes.
Because we're just starting with this story, and so.
How many episodes?
I believe there's 10, but maybe I'm wrong.
That's what I was thinking too. Okay, I'm not sure though.
I think there's 10, and episode 1 was day 1 and 2, and each episode is just titled by the day.
Are we on the third day? Oh, episode 2. So
episode 2 is day 3.
Okay.
So that's what we just watched. Yeah. So episode 2 begins with a flashback, and the father is very different in the beginning of the flashback, right? And you're wondering, like, what the hell is the matter with him? It's in 1946. They're in their North Carolina house. Ruby is a lot younger, and the mom, Lucky, is pregnant with their second child, right? And the husband, he's just like, he seems like he's almost like crazy or something. And I was thinking there's a supernatural element there, but it's not. Turns out he has PTSD. And had you ever heard anything about that, like with them experimenting on like African American soldiers?
In what, the Korean War? I mean, I'm not clear. Or World War II?
World War II.
Okay. Yeah, because it's the 40s, right? Couldn't be the Korean. So no, I mean, that's not my area of expertise. So I don't know.
Right. He makes this one comment of like,
I assume it's based on historical facts.
Oh, I'm sure.
And information.
Yeah. He what do you call it? He makes this one reference. He's like, oh, they could have tested that on the Krauts, right? They could have tested on the German soldiers, but they chose to test mustard gas on African American soldiers.
They wouldn't let them fight.
Right.
So this is how they were treated instead.
And they experimented on them, right? Like, how miserable is that? And so,
fucking awful.
And so, what's the key thing from that scene, though? Like the mustard gas, what was the effect on him?
It was sweet.
Right,
it was sweet, and the smell. And now he has a hard time with sweets or desserts. And the wife serves him a piece of pie, and it freaks out. Yeah. I think in the flashback, she's like unaware that the sweet smell upsets him. So he kind of like the plate starts shaking, and he picks up the plate and throws it against the wall because he's so upset. Mm-hmm.
But we know that from his character now that he's had this horrible PTSD, and his wife is the one that got him back to being kind of a normal father. So we cut back to the modern day, and the police are at the house, and the police are just as miserable as all the white neighbors. They have them up against the wall. They're being mean to them. And then this other cop shows up. What did you think of him?
As an actor or as a character?
Just that character that showed up. I think he was a sergeant.
It was a relief because he started to treat them decently.
Yeah.
Right? When the horrible neighbor, Allison Pill, what's her name?
So Allison Pill is Betty Wendell.
I like Betty.
Yeah.
Name your kid Betty. He kind of like, he tells her off a little bit.
Puts her in her place.
Yeah, he puts her in her place, exactly. Because
Mm-hmm.
she's like, what are you going to do about this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm horrified. She had a gun, and he's kind of like, well, did she do anything to you? And, he just kind of speaks factually to her. And the facts are that nothing bad happened to Betty or her family. And so they can't really do much about the woman having a gun.
Right.
And of course, Betty's like pissed off about this. She says the F word.
Yeah. She's like, he's fucking useless.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if like these 50s housewives would have said things like that. I'd love it if they did, but they're supposed to be notoriously repressed in that time period.
Yeah.
But anyway, he goes inside and calls off the dogs, so to speak, and starts to ask them what's going on and kind of do basic investigative police work, which is what he should do, with a blind eye to their color.
Yes. And like you said, Shay, it was a relief that he acted that way. And I was just going to say to you that essentially feels like every single white person in this show is racist and is going to be racist towards them. There's, I think, 2 exceptions so far, right? There's that cop, and then there was the man in the store, right? The hardware store.
Right.
That's it, though. Otherwise, every white person's horrible.
There's a little glimpse of something with the daughter in episode 2 where she sits next to this girl, Doris, I think, who's like friendly.
Yeah.
She points out immediately, you're pretty for a colored girl. But she also is like, here, you want to try my lipstick? You know, it's almost more like a learned or like a, there's like a racism that's like kind of unconscious. Just like, oh, you're colored. So yeah, I know that. But however, you can be my friend. And, you know, I mean, it's racist, but it's like, she's not going to like be mean to her. Right.
No.
So maybe more.
Yeah. There's different levels of it. Right.
And
yeah.
like, how do I explain? Yeah. How it's okay kind of racist, you know, behavior. It's less severe. Well, it's accepting somewhat.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should talk about that scene that led to it, right? Because that was probably the most upsetting scene I saw on the show so far, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the daughter goes to her school, East Compton High School, and every scene where the black characters are in a public space, everyone's staring at them. Everyone's just staring at them.
I don't know how they can live like this.
I know. It's just, you know. And so they go into the school, and she's in the school, and the teacher's asking a question, and you can tell that everyone in the class, it's a tight focus on her face, and everyone in the class is kind of like giggling, like they're ready for something. And you can tell they're kind of conspiring. And then she's the only one in the class that knows that Emily Dickinson wrote this poem. And once she gives her answer, just everyone starts like imitating monkeys, right? And they slow down that scene, and they just kind of show the kids' faces, and you just hear the monkey noises real slowed down. It was just horrible. And you watch tears go down her cheek. It's just
she's in shock.
Yeah, like that was probably the worst thing I've seen on the show so far. And
I thought the teacher actually is a little weird. The teacher gives her a slip and sends her to the principal's office and writes like as the excuse that she disrupted the class. However, I think the teacher's actually being sympathetic in that moment. She's like, let me get you out of here and get away from these people, because she's like, come here. Because
you know, you don't get disconnected. Who cares? Let's keep talking about the show. So that scene with the daughter happened right after there was like this real upsetting scene with the dad too, right?
The whole fucking thing is upsetting. It really is. This is what I'm saying. There's no way I could binge this. I need like a breather. And I think it's important, and it's like really good as horror and suspense, but it's upsetting. I mean, this is not fun, relax, get away from my troubles type TV.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, the scene with the dad, because he has to deal with the boss.
Yeah, so the boss, I don't remember the actor's name, but he's this guy that's in like one of the Final Destination movies. But it really helps you guys know who I'm talking about. But he always just kind of plays like a dweeby,
little schlubby.
Schlubby guy with glasses. You remember him from Final Destination, right? I think he's like in an office when he dies. Anyway, no, he's in a tanning salon, I think. Whatever, who gives a shit? Anyway, this guy, he just like, he seems so manic. He's like all over the place. He's like real mean to the dad at one point, but then he's also kind of friendly and fun.
Kind of understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of him, but I think he's a problem.
Yeah. And it upsets the dad so much that he leaves and he goes to the bathroom and he just takes a ton of paper towels and just shoves them in his mouth and just, you know, starts screaming in the bathroom stall.
That's why I'm kind of pissed off at the dad. Like, why are you moving your family here and doing that? Like, every character, except for even the little girl with Miss Vera, every character, I mean, every person in his family, his 4-person family, has had these moments where they've, like, faced, this is day 3, something god-awful that they hadn't faced on a normal, regular basis in North Carolina, not in their daily life. And I'm just sort of frustrated that he's moved them there and putting them in this position, as well as himself.
Yeah.
I know. I guess it's to try to make a better life. Well,
not to give away too much, but don't you kind of think that maybe something bad happened in North Carolina too? Because if that wasn't a dream, if that woman really did come to their house and was asking for their kid, then don't you think that maybe something bad might happen in North Carolina too?
Well, I already have the impression that their little baby boy died. I don't know how.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah. Well, anyway, so, you know, we'll see, right? So, but that's the whole thing, right? Is that there's this tension between the mom and the dad. And the very last scene of the episode, I know we skipped a couple of things. We'll go back to them. But the very last scene of the episode is they're having a dinner, and she serves up a pie. And I think that she's aware that like that sweet smell bothers him still, and pie bothers him. And so it's just this really difficult scene to watch of him forcing himself to eat a pie, to kind of be like, I can do this. We are going to be normal. Our life is going to be normal here. And
why do you think she serves that to him?
okay, so one thing that we skipped over to answer your question is that the husband kind of makes it seem like his wife is like kind of losing it to the police officer. And so she was upset about that. Like she was like, you made it seem like I was crazy to the cop. Do you remember that?
Of course I remember that. I don't think that was I guess I would hope I'd be more understanding about the husband's needing to placate the police officer. I mean, he had to say certain things to get them out of there.
Yeah.
Because the police are pretty much their enemies.
Yeah.
And I think she should have been understanding. I mean, I kind of get it to how hard must it be to like swallow your pride and all the emotional difficulties of being in their situation. But she's mad at the husband, whereas I think she should kind of be understanding and be like, this is what we got to do to survive in this world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she is mad at him. She has resentment.
Yeah. And she is kind of losing it, right? Because she does see Miss Vera too. Now we don't know if like that's her losing her mind, if there's like literally a spirit in the basement. But she goes in the basement with her daughter Gracie, and Miss Vera's there once again, and the mom goes up into this shadowy area, and it seems like Miss Vera touches her face. What'd you think of that? Creepy as hell, right? And then she kind of like screams. Miss Vera like screams in her face.
It's a jump scare. There's a few jump scares, and mostly involving Miss Vera.
Yeah.
Which I don't love. I don't love them.
No, and there's a jump scare in the.
Because I actually know they're coming. They don't surprise me really, because Miss Vera is going right up to their face. She did it to the little girl also.
Yeah, in the first episode.
I know they're about to do something like that.
Yeah.
So it just kind of sucks.
Right. Well, and then
it's just upsetting.
There's a jump scare with the dad too, right? Because he is in the hallway of his job, and he's looking at this one window, and the window looks like it has that mustard gas, and the guy was like right up against the window.
Yeah, who's that guy?
Probably a fellow soldier.
Yeah, someone he saw something horrible happen to.
Yeah, and leading up to that shot, I really like this one part where he's walking in the hallway, and the hallway got yellow behind him. Did you like that too?
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yes, and there's like a change of mood and feeling. Yeah, like really well done.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up one last thing, unless you have some other stuff to bring up, Sherry. But we were talking about Fargo before. I know on the Fargo show, you're a big fan of when they had the split screen.
Yeah.
And this episode, I don't think the first episode had it all, but this episode had at least 2 scenes with split screen. Mm-hmm. Were you all happy with that?
Of course I am.
Yeah.
I love split screens. And then the way they did it, actually, it was a way I haven't seen before, where the one face is upside down and the other face is upright.
Yeah.
With the husband and wife. So we didn't finish talking about why did the wife serve him pie?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's
because I think that's an interesting psychological thing on her part.
I think that there's resentment towards her husband, like we said before in the first.
So she did it to be shitty. Because she's mad at him.
His whole thing is like, you have to put up with this to live here, because everything's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Put up with this. And no.
He said that in a nicer way. I just want to clarify.
And I'm also full of shit too, because he says to his daughter when he drops her off at high school that I was really messed up after the war, and your mom helped me get sane. And so she's resenting him for making it seem like she's losing her mind. And then she's like, here's this pie. Remember when you couldn't even eat pie? That's the way I took it.
Oh, I didn't even think about the fact that him calling her crazy may be especially offensive, because he's the one who actually had a severe PTSD, and she had to get him through it, and she was kind and loving, and from what we've seen, hasn't never made him feel bad about it.
No.
Yeah, that adds a whole nother layer. But if she's resentful, and I think she is, I think she has every right to be.
Yeah, because like we said in the first episode, he didn't know about that whole covenant thing.
No, he didn't know.
I'm sorry. The wife didn't know about the covenant thing.
He knew, and she didn't.
Right.
So he kind of knew more what they would be walking into than she did, and he reassured them everything's going to be great, everything's going to be fine, and she kind of knew as soon as she saw the neighborhood and the way the people acted. I mean, they on day one they like lined up their chairs and did that radio thing, which is right there. I would have been fucking out of there. But like that's organized shittiness, you know. It's just organized racism. So her serving up the pie is like kind of her being pissed at him. Yeah, and saying, "Oh, if we have to deal with all this, you deal with this. Let's see if you can do it." You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's what I thought. But I'm bummed out because they really need each other. It's them against the world.
Oh, I know.
And like, if they're going to start splintering and fracturing within the family, like they're on their own. Like, that's going to be especially rough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just think that this show is just all about the experience and how horrible the experience is going to be, right? I know that, for example, when I was looking at that one article that kind of spoiled things for me, they were talking about how upsetting the show is and like all these horrible things that happen in it. And the showrunner, or like one of the creators of the show, Little Marvin, was like, "Welcome to being black," you know? And I know that it's like, that's like the main thing about this show, right? And like the idea, like it talks about with Lovecraft Country, where they're like pioneering. It's like they had to do this. They had to go face these horrible scenarios because they would never be normalized if no one ever did that. And so that's what it seems like this whole show is about.
Yeah.
And I guess if they're only there for 10 days, I'm guessing that it's not successful, you know?
Yeah.
So was there anything else that you...
There's one scene, a standout scene, I thought, in the second episode that I really liked, which was when the mom takes her little daughter to the hardware store.
Yes.
And it reminded me a little bit of The Shining.
Okay.
Where the old guy at the counter like appears next to her.
Yeah.
So first of all, they start playing this great music by the Delphonics, and I don't know that song, but I'm going to know it now because I really liked it. I'm going to listen to it. And what it is that she's seeing, because you see her face like kind of like fixate on something, and I was like, what's there going to be some goddamn horrible creature that she's looking at? But no, it's a wall of axes.
Yeah.
And the guy appears next to her, and it reminded me of The Shining when the bartender, do you remember?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm talking about? Starts talking to Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Even though he's not really there, and kind of giving him ideas.
Right.
Well, the clerk, this old guy clerk at the hardware store, appears next to her and kind of gives her ideas about what to do with that axe and who deserves it and why. And I really liked that scene. I liked the music that was playing. Trippy.
Yeah. That was a really good scene. I really like, and the line of dialogue too. He's like, "Wouldn't you want to see what the brain matter looks like?" Or you ever wonder what brain matter looks like? If someone killed my dog, I'd want to be.
It's chilling, and it tells you her state of mind.
Yeah.
Because of course he's not really there saying these things to her, and they never show if she buys an axe or not.
That's true. They don't.
So I'm fully expecting some axe to show up at their house at some point.
Watch out, Betty.
I do want to say I could have done without all the shots of the dead dog too.
Oh yeah, no.
And like brutal, like the very first episode to have the death of a dog and a child.
Yeah, I know.
They're not messing around. It's like this is a rough show, so it's hard to watch.
Oh, I have one last point, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay.
So there's this one scene where Betty is talking to her husband, and she's trying to convince him to lead the meeting against the African American family, right? He's not the head of the HOA, or he's not the head of the community, and the head of the community is leaving, right? So she kind of puts her hand on his shoulder, and she like tries to kind of talk him up. This is why
she flatters him.
Right, this is why I fell in love with you. I feel like if this was a show on HBO, she totally would have like started to like
blow him.
Blow him, exactly. Yeah. Like it maybe it might not be that kind of show, because with like HBO and stuff, it's always about being sensational, and maybe it's not going to be like that kind of show.
I think it's implied here. She definitely like used her kind of feminine wiles on him, and it worked. You know, she flattered him. He got all kind of smiley, and, and then he was like, okay, I'll do it. You know, and who knows what happened later in the bedroom? Like, I think there was like a promise there, or kind of a hint of this is what you're going to get.
Okay. But I feel like just like on HBO though, they would like literally show you what you were gonna get. Yeah.
And this show isn't like exactly showing you everything. They're not showing you all their cards right up front. And I like that. Yeah,
that's what I like about Amazon too, just in general. Like, because there's another show that we watched on Amazon that we really liked. It was not Homeland, but what was the other one? It was called like Home with Julia Roberts.
Oh my God, Homecoming.
Homecoming, right?
Yeah.
And so that's another kind of show where you could have like maybe fit sex scenes in or something. But it wasn't. It was just like serious, it's never like sensational. It's like, let's just tell a good story.
Yeah.
So
that was a very good show.
Yeah. So far we like episodes 1 and 2 of them. Wow, we talked about it for 41 minutes. That's pretty impressive, Sherry.
If you sat through it with us.
Yes,
thank you.
especially with the little break there where we got disconnected. Boy, do we love you. But I'm going to do episode 3 and then the ball's in Danny's court to review it later, okay? So just keep watching the Lastercast, and we're going to keep talking about that.